One could scarcely say when the trail ceased to be simply a trail, and the road actually could be called a road. First, only saddle trains could pass. On the back of a still-jointed, hard-trotting, slow-walking, contrary mule, I was initiated into the secret depths of the mud holes of the trail. And such mud holes, it became a standing joke after the road was opened that a team could stall with an empty wagon going downhill.
The West Side Road was started as the military road, first surveyed in 1855, but not completed along the Cowlitz until 1860. John M. McClelland Jr., in his book Cowlitz Corridor, Historical River Highway of the Pacific Northwest, describes the map produced of the road between Monticello and Drew's House by W. W. DeLacy from the survey by George Gibbs. This route, called a territorial road, started at Monticello opposite the Red Slough, now Lake Sacagawea, and proceeded north along the bank of the Cowlitz past claims identified as belonging to Nathaniel Stone, Judge Seth Catlin, J.C. Leonard, Alexander Crawford, William Hayes, Hugh McMillan, Alfred Washburns, James Catlin, L.P. Smith, Captain McCorkle, Enoch Chapman, and then took off across a ridge of hills with deep ravines on either side until it reached Henry Jackson's place on Arkansas Creek. From there, the road re-entered the woods over a gravelly ridge covered with burnt timber, Pumphrey's Mountain, and came out again at the riverbank where Iroquois Creek flows into the Cowlitz. The route then meandered northward through much fallen timber to Mill Creek, where Drew had his mill and farm.
At Monticello, we find one or more stages waiting to convey mails and passengers to Olympia, and if the competition be strong, for very cheap fares. Our stage, on this occasion, is a long, light, open wagon, well loaded down with mail matter. The first 6 miles are along the riverbank, in sand and dust with very little open country in sight, this portion of the Cowlitz Valley being of no great extent. Then commences the crossing of the Cowlitz Mountains. What strikes us most in this drive are the magnificence of the timber on the mountain and the roughness of the country for a highway. In this July weather, it is well enough jolting through the forest and over roots of giant trees and into the hollows between them, but in the rainy season, it is a different undertaking.
We traveled by horseback, by stage, or walked. The stagecoach changed horses at Jackson's. They used 4 or 6 horses depending on the condition of the roads. Sometimes the road was too bad for the stagecoaches to travel, so the passengers had to go by horseback. The roads were sometimes terrible. The military road sounds good, but it was an awful road, really. Father said the men who built it looked for the highest hills and went over them. Pumphrey's Mountain was an awful pull, only 9 miles from Jackson's to Pumphrey's, but so steep a change of horses was needed at the top.
From Monticello, we bounced off into the woods at a rate of 3 or 4 miles an hour. The road was rough beyond description. During the winter rains, it was just impassable and is abandoned. For miles, it is over trees and sticks laid down roughly in swamps, and for the rest, ungraded and simply a path cut through the dense forest. However, the majestic beauty of the fir and cedar forests through which we rode almost continuously for the day and a half that the road stretched out was compensation for much discomfort. These are the finest forests we have yet met. We occasionally struck a narrow prairie, but for the most part it was a continuous ride through forests, so high and thick that the sun could not reach the road, so unpeopled and untouched that the very spirit of solitude reigned supreme and made us feel its presence as never upon ocean or plain.